Hello, my name is Guillermo Olivares. I'm an ESOL 1310 student. I'm gonna talk about Maria Teresa Tato's journal called Education Reform and State Power in Mexico, the Paradoxes of Decentralization. She begins the journal explaining the way Mexican government is transforming educational policies, comparing its teaching methods and authority standards with the US educational policies most of the time. She explains how Mexican education is based on a didactic routine way of teaching and formal standard of authority, while in the US education is based on an interactive conceptual way of teaching and a organic standard of authority. In order to explain the reform, she goes through topics like technical councils such as the Consejos Técnicos Escolares and their work Proyecto Escolar. She also wrote about teacher education, topic that has been supported by Programa para abatir el rezago educativo, the curricular reform signed since 1992, and the Carrera Magisterial, which in my opinion is helping a lot Mexican teachers to be prepared in a better way. Next, she goes through paradoxes of decentralization in the educational reform, writing about how Mexican government already took big steps on this educational reform, but some characteristics such as organic structures don't seem evolved yet. She uses the journal's graphic in order to explain the complexity of the reform too, making the reader understand why it goes so slow. In conclusion, she writes about how hard it can be to change and transform a traditional teaching method and school organization standards in a country as big and complex as Mexico is, explaining that the main challenges for this reform and decentralization may be the development and sustenance of teacher education such as the programs, and how the possible failure to develop alternative structures of authority may not mean failure for this educational reform. She expressed that she still has hope on it because of how young the reform still is, but questioning if Mexico can be powerful enough to do it. This topic is interesting to me being a Mexican born student in the United States, testifying how many similarities but differences exist between both educational systems still. Having studied my basic education years in Mexico, I can also tell that as a student I was able to notice the transformation that Mexican education is having, comparing it with my experience here in the US and finding how more similar it became through the years. It also makes sense how much troubles I could tell this reform was social occasioning in Mexico, not even knowing the main reason, making now a lot more sense. In my own opinion, Mexico is capable to go ahead with this reform on an intellectual way, but I'm not so sure if it would be able to do it on a social way. Have said this, I end up my video. Thank you.